You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is May 15th, 2024, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we have a special one. It's kind of a local show on local activism here in Sacramento. So we can't wait to get into that. But before we do that, let me tell you some of the other topics we're going to have too. We're also going to talk about slap lawsuits and how they can kind of put a damper on local activism, and we'll have our Knucklehead Noise Patrol at the end. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And in our upper left-hand corner, we have Debbie Redhat. She is our activist here in Sacramento, and she's actually connected to Kay Lynn, who we had on a couple weeks ago as well with the Constitution class. So this kind of bookends with that show a little bit, and we'll get into some of that. But as we start off on the show, what we usually like to do now is kick off with a Liberty quote. So let's jump, James, maybe we could jump right to that. This particular visual we have, or quote we have, is from Leonardo da Vinci. So we went all the way back into the Renaissance to get this one. But actually, I was kind of surprised, as I was looking some of this stuff up, that he's a great artist, scientist, and inventor back in those days, and you may recognize him from, as the artist of Mona Lisa and The Last Supper, just as a few of his notable things that he did. But he actually had this quote on authority, and it kind of really fits in with the times he was in. It says, "Nothing strengthens authority so much as silence." And I thought that quote kind of fit in well with activism as well. So you guys have any thoughts on this particular quote, or Mr. Da Vinci?
Well, coming from if I may jump in, coming from someone back in the day when I guess the silence was broken by people having conversations, face to face. There was no other way other than letters, of course. So writing letters and posting articles or comments in a potentially in a newspaper, I guess, it's about all they had. So for him to recognize that, of course. He's a great man, and was a great man, and I'm not surprised that he was able to glean that out of his times.
I just wonder if Da Vinci was trying to say something else, in the sense that when authority goes silent, they do all their dirty deeds in the background. So I am not me and Tim. I don't discount your analysis of the code, but I wonder if he was trying to get at something completely different.
Yeah, that could be. I see it.
Okay.
Well, what about you, Debbie? Do you have any thoughts on Mr. Da Vinci here?
Well, I do know that he was not only an incredible artist and world-renowned and an intellectual. He was drawing graphics of helicopters and all sorts of things in his day. He was an inventor. He was very smart. And if he was pondering this, that authority being strengthened is not a good thing, and that silence contributes to that, then I think we need to have freedom of speech, and we should be able to use our First Amendment rights to speak up and break that silence.
Yeah, I'm guessing a helicopter back in those days was a pretty dangerous idea. I imagine a lot of people might have wanted to silence him.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I'm a pilot today, and I can verify helicopters are a dangerous idea right now.
I was going to say, what kind of power was he thinking of using? Solar power? Clouding power. So
yeah,
he had
wind power, I guess.
Wind power. Yep.
Well, there you go. Well, let's get into what's going on with Debbie here in Sacramento. So Debbie, we do have a video clip we wanted to show of you and one of your colleagues, I guess, speaking in front of the Citrus Heights city council, just to give people a sense of that. But before we get into that clip, did you want to preface it at all as far as I guess what the mission or is of your activism?
Oh, sure. Well, I just want to say that authority is based on where does that authority come from, right? If you are in the military, you always have a chain of command. And I was wondering where they had the right and the power. Where did the power come from to lock down our county, to declare an emergency for 3 years, to close my library, to close the restaurants and the small businesses, but leave the big box stores open? I mean, it was like, what is happening here? This is not the country that I lived in and that my father fought for in 3 wars. He was in the World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. And this is not the country that he fought for. So I just noticed that I wondered, where did they have the power? So I started reading, and I started gathering with other people. We started reading all of the constitutions. We realized the U.S. Constitution has 10 items in the Bill of Rights, but the 10th one gives all the rest of the rights back to the states and to the people. And whatever the states, we don't give to the states, we retain, the people retains those rights. We get our power not from the Constitution, but we give our power to the Constitution. And that's when I learned that the California Constitution says that we, the people, have all the political power, all of it, not some of it, not once in a while, not just on election day, but we have it all the time. If we know what our rights are and we stand on them, they can't take them away. But we have been lulled into this place where we don't really know, can they do that? We need to know they can't do that. And so we have read the Constitution, and we are going to the government and we're asking them, hey, do you believe that it's your duty to uphold our natural rights? That's, you're an employee of We the People. You believe that in a time of panic or emergency, you can take away those rights? And it makes them think. And then we do put in a caveat that says, you have 15 days to show us where you get that power. Where does it say that in the Constitution? And if you can't display that publicly on a billboard or their website or something showing where did they get the power, where did We the People write that in the Constitution, then if they do it again, it'll be done with malice, intent, and forethought. And so, yes, we're getting it out there. We delivered our first one to Sacramento Board of Supervisors on January the 8th or 9th, 2024. And then we've been going systematically to the 7 cities. Then we went to Placer County. Now we're in Nevada County and El Dorado County. So, but anyone can do this in their counties. We have 58 counties. Everyone needs to be serving their local jurisdictions and letting them know, we know what the Constitution says, and they need to know also.
Yeah.
But Debbie isn't. I'm sorry, Jason.
Oh,
Debbie, isn't the big problem that we have here in the United States is complacency of we the people?
exactly. We have fallen asleep, and we've forgotten that that we have the power. And a lot of people are saying, we don't have the power anymore. Where did it was taken from us. It was stolen from us. Actually, that's not true. They did not change the Constitution. The verbiage in the Constitution is still standing there, but they've used some gaslighting to say, oh, it's an old document. It's not any good anymore. We don't need to use it. But when we wake up and we realize, no, our founding fathers were brilliant men. They had been through, they were getting out of, being under the king. And their forefathers had endured the Magna Carta and the everything that the kings had tried is now going on in our country. We need to go back and relearn and re-listen and teach each other and then let our public servants know that they're not our public officials. They are our servants. We have a contract with them. It's called the Constitution, and they need to uphold the Constitution. And, let's do that, and then I'll get into the next phase that we're going into that I'm really excited about, but let's do this one first.
Yeah, and it sounds too like what you're talking about is that they're constantly trying to reinterpret, and all these new rights that or that the government has over us supposedly, or powers that the government has over us seem to pop up out of nowhere. But it seems like what spurred your most recent one that you guys did this recent round is this idea that suddenly there was a new scare recently that a new version of COVID had popped up right before the election, and that suddenly there was a possibility for more lockdowns. And I think that's what spurred you guys for this. Is that correct, Debbie?
Yes, I'd been working on some other notices. The elections are going sideways. Parental rights are going sideways. The Second Amendment's going sideways. I was working on those. But when I saw the article that the federal government had increased the level of threat for the Ebola virus and the Marburg virus, I went, oh, here we go again. So also on the agenda, the Sacramento County had on their, in the meeting, they were going to pass to buy $2.5 million worth of new vaccines for 2024. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. So yeah, we put this together in 24 hours. We walked down there, and I was shaky the first time we gave it
Well, let me show the public here the video so that they can see what it is you guys actually do at one of these meetings. And this one is from Citrus Heights. And it's a pretty good one. The video quality is good, and you can really hear everybody well. So James, can you start out showing KOL 1? This was from February of this year.
First up, I'm going to call up Sandy M.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for giving us this time to speak with you. Thank you so much for being public servants for the people, for having taken your oaths to uphold and defend our constitutions, both the state and the federal. We are coming to you this evening in peace as we the people to give you notice and instruction so that you and your agents may provide due care. This national lockdown notice has already been given to 50 state governors, to the President of the United States, to the Supreme Court, to the United States Senate, and the United States Congress. We are now giving you a copy. This week we learned that the federal government, in alignment with the World Health Organization, has announced an amendment to a credible threat of a public health emergency. Their expanding countermeasures now include both Ebola and Marburg viruses, and extension of liability immunity to manufacturers, distributors, program planners, qualified persons, and their officials, agents, and employees. We have included this report in our notice envelope just given to you. We have also learned that the government was never granted any authority to lock down the people, even in times of emergency. The main object of government is the protection and preservation of personal rights, private property, and public liberties. The government just serves for our benefit as public officers, trustees, and servants of the people. We are also attaching a list of unalienable rights, which includes the right to accept or refuse any medical treatment for any reason. Since this council has a history of putting the city under health emergency orders for extended periods of time, we are very concerned that another round of involuntary lockdowns and health orders could occur in our fair city.
So that was the first half, and then Debbie winds up coming up just after that to give them the second half. And so let me jump to that right now, and it's just under 2 minutes for that as well. So James, maybe you can go to KOL 2.
Yes. Hi, I'm Debbie. Please take notice that all states in our Republican form of government have sworn to protect individual liberty. as a condition to be hired as trustees. The people of America are all guaranteed to have the same rights in all the states. As an elected official, do you believe it's your duty to always protect the natural rights of the people so they are guaranteed enjoyment of all their natural rights? Or do you believe that in some time of panic or emergency that you can remove the people's rights to freely exercise liberty, movement, worship, commerce, or any other purpose that is lawful? If so, please show constitutional authority where you get that power. Posting this granted authority conspicuously within the next 15 days, notifying the public and all agents. If you cannot show where you get the authority and you take action blocking the people's rights to enjoy freedom, then any lockdown, mandate, or forced use of any medical device will be construed as being done with malice, intent, full knowledge, and understanding against your trust indenture, your contract with the people. That would be the Constitution. This notice is given in peace and with the love of Christ, that you and your agents may provide due care to those who have all political power, the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
So again, I thought that was really remarkable. You guys are very calm, and you guys gave a very polite and sort of reasoned request. So that's the first thing that jumps out at me from all the other protesting that we've seen recently. I guess is that your aim?
Well, exactly. The only thing that's going to heal our republic is to return to the rule of law. And the rule of law is very calm. It is what it is. The law is the law. There's no controversy with the law. The law, actually, we've been studying where the maxims of law came from. Early, the 1700s, they were using Charles Weismann's maxims of law. And that's the common law that was underwriting the Constitution after the Revolutionary War in 1776. But the law doesn't get hysterical. Truth doesn't get hysterical. I think that some of these forces that want us to be upset and want us to be divided, the chaos kind of plays into their hand. And what we've really learned is that we've gotten far away from the truth. We've gotten far away from what's right. It's not about left versus right anymore. It's about right versus wrong. And we have forgotten things. Like, I'm drawing a blank, but I know we've forgotten that the Constitution says we the people have all the political power. Why did they trick us into thinking that we only had it on election day and we had to wait every 4 years? One person in a republic. Oh, that's what I forgot. We've been told this is a democracy. I will pay $500 to the first person that will show me where it says the word democracy in the Constitution. It's not there. There were no Democrats. There were no Republicans. When it was written, it was just we the people. We the people need to return to the old ways. We need to read all 51 constitutions. We need to realize that the founding fathers were wise, and they knew they had just come out from under the tyranny of a king. They knew all of the underhanded tricks. But I tell you what, the king has gotten smart. We used to have one king that we could point a sword at and go, stop, you're not allowed to do this. You have signed the Magna Carta, you've signed the Bill of Rights, you don't get to do this anymore. But they got smart. Now they have an oligarchy where they have corporations and media, and there's so many that we could point our fingers at and go, oh, it's the EPA. Oh, no, it's the education department. Oh, it's these people. Oh, it's the OSHA saying we have to get a jab or no job. They have tricked us into seeing that we don't know where the target is anymore. And when I would go and pray about it, it was like, no, I don't need to know where the target is. I need to know what the truth is. I need to stand on the truth. I need to know what my status is as one of we the people. Knowing that I'm one of we the people, I'm no longer in their jurisdiction. They work for me, I'm not in their district. I'm not in this little tiny box that they put me in. I'm reading the Constitution. This is what it says. Are they following it or not? That is exactly the only thing that needs to be done. Okay.
So Debbie, you keep referring to they have tricked us. They have done this and they have done that.
I don't like saying it that way, but that's
who's they? No, I'm asking who is they? Who are we talking about?
Well, who was the one that got up there and said you can't have a job unless you get the jab?
A whole bunch of people in that.
A whole bunch of people said governors, city mayors.
And somewhere in the silence, they talked to each other and said, we're going to say this all at the same time. But I want to give you some really good news. In 2021, we started writing lawful notices, giving due process to the Supreme Court. And we told the Supreme Court exactly what I told to the City Council. Do you believe that in times of emergency that you can take away our rights? And I was giving away these notices as Christmas presents. I'd give everybody like 5 with envelopes, and they can mail it to the Supreme Court.
Well, Debbie, I wanted to ask you, what's your reaction been on some of this stuff? Do you feel like they're listening? Do you feel okay?
January 2022, after we mailed out all the thousands of notices to the Supreme Court, they overturned the executive branch's order that everyone had to get these jabs. Judge Kavanaugh said, nope, this is overstepping their bounds. OSHA has no power here. And it died January 2022. I watched the truth being presented to our servants. We didn't come into the court asking them for permission. Would you please the court? Would you hear our case? We came in as we the people. We're your boss. You are our employees. Knock it off. Show us where you have the power. Now, they're not going to write a letter and say, oh, hey, Debbie, thanks for the notice. But they have been listening to us. The other things that have happened is they overturned Roe versus Wade. There's nowhere in the Constitution that gives authority for the federal government to regulate abortions. And it doesn't use the word abortion. So that right went back to the states, and the Supreme Court bumped it back to the states, and the state of California reacted to that within 48 hours, put a new issue on the ballot for reproductive rights, and that one did pass. But it was in direct response to the Supreme Court. The Bruin case, that overturned using the historical meaning of the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court's very clear that our Second Amendment rights cannot be taken away from us and shall not be infringed. The other thing they started looking at was all the federal agencies. Do the federal agencies have the right to make the laws? No, the Constitution says the Congress has the authority to make the laws, not the executive agencies.
Well, Debbie, I wanted to jump in real quick because we're getting close to the time, and I wanted to have enough time before we lose the public access audience to show some of this stuff how they can get involved with you in your class. So James, maybe you could bring this up. So James, or visible hand. There we go.
Yes.
So this is the Constitution class webpage that we had that we showed a couple weeks ago with Kay Lynn, and this is where a lot of you guys go to sort of, I guess, become more informed about the what's going on with the Constitution and what your rights are. But then you guys have as well a class where those of you who have the energy and time to become more active on this, it sounds like, get involved with this safety committee, I guess, of Sacramento, and you guys are actually expanding that to other areas as well. So it's pretty impressive. Did you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Well, the Constitution discussion groups meets every other Thursday at Epic Bible College, and everyone's invited. And we meet with our committees of safety the other Thursdays. And if you want to get involved, you can contact the Constitution discussion group. And we need lots of helpers. We need lots and lots of people that want to restore the republic and want to have God be the ruler of our land and God's word, and not, the arbitrary rule of law from man. I mean, really, let's ask the question, what kind of country do you want to live in? One where you're guilty until proven innocent, or innocent until proven guilty?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
I just wonder about that, Debbie. You just step into the realm of saying that we want God's laws, I guess is what you're saying, the natural rights that granted us by God, right? Is that what you're saying?
So the preamble of the California Constitution says, we the people of the state of California, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom, in order to secure and perpetuate its blessings, do establish this Constitution. God is in our constitutions. Now, I believe anyone can have whatever idea of God they want. Mine is good, orderly direction. Other people's might be Buddha. It might be the universe. It might be Yosemite. It might be, but as long as we're following a divine path and not arbitrary whims of, well, let's do it this way. Oh, I think I'll do this. We need to follow the rule of law. The rule of law has been tried and true. Common law is what our constitutions are based on. They're written down, and we need to follow it.
Well, Debbie, before you guys go any further, I just want to put up the contact information so people who are watching this. So, James, maybe you could put up the contact real quick here. Let's see. There it is. So this is the website so that you can go find out more about the Constitution class. And this is an email for Debbie so that you can go get more information from her as well about this. And they also have some other events coming up that I just want to mention real quick. There's a potluck coming up this month on the 30th. So definitely contact them about that. And they do have a big sort of fair about the Constitution, a Constitution celebration on September 15th, 2024. So you can put that on your calendars. And if you're watching us on public access, there's more to come, but you'll have to go catch the rest of that online. So thanks so much. So, okay. So you guys can, Leon, did you have a question you wanted to follow up with Debbie there?
Yes. It's just this concept, this concept of the divine. Now, I have no problem with natural rights, the concept of natural rights. And I think many of those natural rights are embedded in our Constitution. I'm just wondering, when we get into the realm of the divine, I mean, each of us have different definitions of who we're going to call God.
Yes.
For instance, the Muslims have this person they call Allah, who I don't have any attachment to myself. I was born and raised in the Christian faith. But I would think is those embedments, those natural rights that are embedded in the Constitution, is that the path that you are talking about that we should be following?
So, do you believe in gravity, in physics, and that you didn't create yourself. You didn't create the sun, the moon, and the stars. There is a creator. And that if you walk off a cliff, you're going to fall. Those are natural consequences. You have a natural right to be free, to make your choices. And we need our freedom back. How did it feel when they took our freedom away? Did it feel good? It didn't feel good to me.
No, Debbie, I don't think we have a disagreement here. I'm just looking for some clarifications of where we draw the line between the divine and our normal living under the rule of law. I'm not sure I understand where you are attempting to draw that line. Is what I'm asking.
Well, I'm going to use a trigger word called the hierarchy. But when I realized that government was trying to tell me that I had constitutional rights and that my rights came from the Constitution, I'd believed that. I'd heard that my whole life. But then they have usurped the authority and they say, oh, well, we can take those away from you. And now you can't go to the grocery store unless you wear a mask, or we give you permission to go, or you got to have this jab in order to get it. I mean, I wanted to get some Golden One tickets and go see a concert at Christmas. And I had to fill out their online form, and it said, if you get these tickets, are you contracting? You're basically agreeing to all the health orders that the county health department is issuing. And I'm like, heck no. I woke up really, really quick in 2020 when they said lots of people are dying from this disease. And I said, well, how many? And I went to the website and I found out that in the United States, we normally lose about 2 million people every year. And 40% of those are accidents, car accidents and stuff like that. So here we had a disease that was killing, 1.6%. And I'm like, okay, let's do the math really quick. Really? 1.6%? You're going to lock down 100% of the population for 1.6%? Really? It just didn't make any sense to me. If you take 2 million people and divide it by 365, you get 8,000 some odd people die in the United States every day. Every day. But CBS, NBC, ABC, whatever, those alphabet, they would get on there, get hysterical that 5 people had died. And when they got hysterical, I realized that I was up against some brainwashing. I was up against something that wasn't right. You don't get hysterical over 5 people when over 8,000 people die every day. If Whit was saying, well, we just lost 9,000 people today, I would get hysterical too. And I wasn't seeing anybody falling down. All I saw was 24/7, the media was going, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. And I said, I'm not going to be afraid. I am not going to be afraid. Now, I don't know why I wasn't afraid, but I pray all the time. And it's like, no, this is not true. I just knew it wasn't true.
Well, Debbie, one of the things.
Did that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah,
It does. It does. Yes. Yes.
And what I was going to say, Debbie, to follow up on this is one of the things we usually ask guests as we're talking to them is sort of what was it that woke you up to, sort of this value and liberty to get you active on this. But it sounds like it was probably what happened with COVID. I mean, it sounds like it was this whole lockdown mess that just sort of triggered everything with a lot of people. So is that kind of what rang your liberty bell?
It rang my liberty bell. I said, this is nonsense. Standing 6 feet apart from people. Where did you come up with that number? And hey, you have to wear a mask. Oh, it could be a bandana, or it could be cloth that says not for medical use. Did you ever read the box? It's like people forgot to read. they just their mind just went off the rails. I'm like, okay, so what I did was I said, come on, hon. If we get on the motorcycle, they're 6 feet apart. We're social distancing. Everybody's home. We had the whole highway. We had Northern California to ourselves. We went all over the place on the motorcycle, just having fun with our freedom. And we started meeting other people that were free and didn't believe it. And that is when I started waking up. It's like, there's other people out here that think like I do. And I started then collecting people's phone numbers and their friendships. And now I have this wonderful network of friends that are positive. And it's like, now we search it out. And it's like, is that really true? Is that really, really true? Because I think there's a lot of untruths that are being told out there. Yeah. Do you ever, right now we're in the middle of this big controversy with Israel and the Hamas and the genocide. And I feel so sad for the hysteria. I feel so sad. But I went to a city council meeting last week. Can I tell the story? And this gentleman was just so upset that Winston Churchill was, he quoted something from Winston Churchill from the end of World War II. And you know what? I'd never heard that before. And I was born a long time before this gentleman was. And I'm like, this quote, who's saying this quote is real? Did it just get invented by, GP chat or AI? I mean, where are these people getting their information? I just got a text from Move On. They're wanting to have signing parties in homes and send vote for Joe Biden in November postcards. But they said that the MAGA people want to do away with any kind of birth control, and that we want to take away women's right to vote. Why are they making up stories that aren't even true? No wonder there's this, it's like we're in alternate realities. And that's why I have to say, we have to go back to what is written. We have to go back to prove all things. It says in the Bible, prove all things. We can't just believe anything anymore. There's so much propaganda out there on both sides. It's disturbing. Very disturbing. But
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay. It's very common during the election season for some of our fellow citizens to take leave of their senses. So it's very easy for politicians to come along and use that strategy of divide and conquer. Okay, so the MAGA people are evil. We're going to make sure they never get to office. Or if on the other side we say, well, the Democrats are evil, I tend to say that myself, quite frankly, full disclosure, and they should never be in office. But the whole idea, it all comes down to divide and conquer. This was a strategy that's been alive for 1,000 years, and it's still being applied today in our society. And that complacency, which we started off this show with, that is what is destroying our great land. But I want to point out one thing. The role of the media, you talk about propaganda, the role of the media is very, very critical in the dissemination of misinformation. And that is what is fueling the ripping apart of our republic.
They're very, I agree with you, Leon. Leonardo da Vinci said silence is what enables the tyranny, right?
Yes.
But the noise that's coming forth through the media and the propaganda, that's not silence, but it's not true.
Well, you know what it seems like they're doing too? It's with their noise, they're trying to drown us out. I think drown out we the people. That's kind of what it feels like. But I did notice too when you talked about getting on your motorcycle and going out. One of the first things I did to be able to get out anywhere during COVID was they canceled Freedom Fest, which is something I started going to during that, and they canceled it in Vegas. But the very next one they had was in South Dakota, and I noticed that right after Freedom Fest ended there, Sturgis was coming in. So that was that's the big motorcycle rally across the country. So while they were still trying to keep people locked down in all the other states, all the people on motorcycles seem to have the same idea as you, Debbie. So just coming.
Get away. Just get away.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a time. I was listening to every side, trying to discern and have wisdom. I was gaining knowledge, and I was trying to see who's telling the truth. The other thing that was untruthful was Fauci was on TV every single day saying, do this, and you're going to be safe. These, you got to wear a mask. You got to wear a mask. And then I started hearing about natural immunity, and they started saying there's no such thing as natural immunity. Well, what? I've always known that there was natural immunity. They changed the definition of words. The definition of vaccine is not the same definition that it was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
The definition of vaccine was you take the vaccine, you'll never get this again. Well, if you take this jab, you can get it over and over and over again. And now you need a booster, and a second booster, and a third booster, and a fourth booster. That is not the way I understand a vaccine to be. So changing the definition of words, I think it's evil. It's definitely to confuse us, to argue. Therefore, I decided I want a strategy that's based in truth, that's based in calm and peace. And if I'm standing on the constitutions, I know what it says. It's in writing. We don't have to argue anymore. It's kind of like having a real estate contract. If it says that the buyer's going to pay for all repairs, I don't have to be upset because the buyer's going to pay for all repairs, and he can come and yell and scream all he wants, but he signed it.
Yes.
He signed the contract. Well, our government officials, which I call them servants now, they signed the contract. They're sitting in those chairs.
Exactly. Just to further your point about the so-called vaccine, I contracted COVID after I had my first 2 shots.
Right? My girlfriends were going, you got to get the shot so we can go party. Come on, we got to go out. And I'm like, look, I have a 1.6% chance of dying if I, don't take the vaccination. But I have 100% chance of getting the disease if I do get the vaccination. Can you do the math for me there? I'd rather take my chances with not having this disease in my body. That's when it was very difficult because I lost some friends. They said, hey, if you're not going to believe that this is, the way out, then the friendship kind of ended. But it was like, why can't you see the common sense here? I'm really going back to common sense. Does it make sense? And there's so many things that don't make sense anymore.
Well, Debbie, one of the things, because I didn't want to let too much go by without being able to get a few more things to the public about how they can get involved and what they've what you've learned through this process. So I wanted to find out, what are some of the issues coming up on your radar that you guys are looking to protest about
in our committee,
activism? Yeah.
In our committee, we're very aware that we, the people, are being attacked in over 20 different topics, all at the same time. And it's kind of like the Wheel of Fortune. Which one are we going to be attacked with this week? But we have limited people. That's why we need more people signing up and saying, I want to help. I want to learn. I want to dedicate myself to restoring our republic, and I'm in. What we've identified is We're notifying our public servants about the medical freedom that our medical freedom comes from God, not government. And the other thing is the elections. Did you know that they don't have any power to change the way of elections? We, the people, have written in the Constitution the way we want our elections to be. And in 2020, they changed the way of elections from one day to election season. And they are now, everything they do since 2020 is null and void as far as I'm concerned.
Well, some of the things they did was post hoc, where it was after the election, even though they had rules where some of the ballots had to be in by a certain date, they even allowed them to keep coming in certain places. So,
Yes.
kind of crazy.
Pennsylvania and Michigan, that was true.
Exactly what you just said. We were witnesses to the, well, I'm not calling it fraud anymore because the attorneys like to take you to court, and I'm not going to court. What I want to do is stay out of their jurisdiction. And I call it maladministration. That's what it calls in the Constitution, that we can have them removed from their seats, from their office, if they're maladministration. Now, in the Declaration of Independence, our founding fathers wrote, after a long train of abuses. And what we're doing by giving these notices to government is we're documenting the long train of abuses. So we're doing the medical freedom, we're doing election integrity. The next one we're going to be doing is parental rights, that God gives parents their rights to raise their kids, not government. And then the fourth one we're going to be doing is the Second Amendment. We are pretty clear that the Supreme Court has already flipped on the Second Amendment because of the Bruin case. But I really think right now the election, notifying all of the officials in California that the way of elections have changed, and ask them again, where did you get the power to change we the people's elections? And there is a monetary liability in our notices that says, if you do this again, then we will hold you responsible personally, not just because of your office. But these officials have houses, and they have airplanes and boats and all sorts of things that are.
So some of them have wineries in California.
Yes. But I'm not here for the money, but I'm here to hold them accountable. And sometimes that's what they do pay attention to is, hey, if you want to keep doing these elections, then, I want $1 million, hey, here's my address. So that's my thought.
I was curious to clarify what you meant when you said that the Supreme Court flipped on the Bruin case. Do you mean that they flipped to the side of what your interpretation of the Second Amendment is, or did they flip against your interpretation?
They flipped to the constitutional historic record of how it was when the founding fathers set it up. In fact, you'll notice that the Second Amendment does not mention guns. It calls them arms.
Yes.
We have the right to bear arms. It doesn't specify what those are. The federal government doesn't have any jurisdiction over our arms and how we protect our property. The only purpose of government is to maintain our rights. And we gave our power to the government because we can't, if we have property, we can't sit and guard it all day long. So we gave government the job to guard it for us with police officers and courts, but we never gave them the power to take away our rights. We reserved our rights in the Constitution.
Well, Debbie,
let me ask something, please. So let's go back to the Second Amendment, which I agree with that the Supreme Court did a good thing in the Bruin decision. But you are right. The Constitution does not mention, the Second Amendment does not mention guns. It does say arms. So I would like to know, where do you think we should draw the lines? Are all citizens allowed to keep and bear all arms?
Oh yeah, I want an F-16 too.
What about a nuclear weapon?
Right? What about a nuclear weapon?
You
I
think we
don't
should-
I don't want a nuclear weapon. I'm not putting that out there, but I am pondering this, and I'm not sure, Leon. I do know that we have a right. It's been a common law right to protect ourselves. If someone attacks us, we have a right to self-defense. That's a God-given right. Do
Yes,
you agree or disagree? Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Yes.
Okay. I don't know how we, the people, are going to come together and protect ourselves from these dangerous people that have nuclear weapons, these dangerous ones that might use it against we, the people. But they definitely crossed the line in 2020 and showed us that they are willing to take away our rights, that they swore an oath that they would never do that.
Well, I tell you, as far as the Second Amendment goes, I mean, a special interest with who's packing a few legislators is a heck of a lot more dangerous than your average citizen holding a few firearms at home. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, let's suppose somebody is sitting at home and they're, say, watching this in another state or they're in another part of the state, and they wanted to start one of these themselves. What would you recommend to them? How should they go about the process?
Well, where I started was a little bit at a time gaining knowledge. But this is my story. It basically says we have 51 constitutions. We need to read all 51 constitutions. I'm going to tell you my dog story. Okay, Jason? Once upon a time, we, the people, established a great nation. And we said, we want to form a more perfect union. And we've established this constitution. And it was a beautiful land and lots of opportunity. And then we, the people, fell asleep for a very long time. And now we're starting to wake up. And we're looking around our wonderful country, our wonderful nation, and we're saying, hey, it's beautiful here. There's green grass and tall trees, and there's a river or a lake nearby, maybe an ocean, but definitely blue skies and a beautiful place to live. And there's families everywhere. They're playing in the park. They're having parties and picnics. And then we start to notice that there's this bad dog running around, stealing people's food and biting the kids. And we're starting to complain about that and going, somebody ought to do something about that bad dog. And then we study and we read all 51 constitutions and we realize, oh, it's our bad dog.
The government is that's a good analogy for government, I suppose.
Well, how would you talk to a dog that was out of control? When I graduated from high school and got my first job, I was appalled that they took 15% out of my first paycheck. I had budgeted everything so I could get an apartment and get out on my own on my first paycheck. They took 15% and I was short.
Wow.
Guess what? They're taking 35% out of your check.
Mhm.
I think this is not good. They've encroached on our liberties, on our ability to earn a living, to have a pursuit of happiness. There's a tremendous amount of theft going on. And then we're giving it away to other countries to buy weapons for their countries. And I'm appalled, really, what's going on. I could get really angry, but I've learned they want us to be upset. They want us to be divided. There seems to be this tendency. Well, the people that got upset in 2020 that the elections went sideways, lots of us went to the Capitol on January 6th and showed our power, right? But they interpreted it as
An insurrection.
force and an insurrection. And
Yes.
I watched it live from my technology. I wasn't there. but it was calm and it was peaceful. And I had a completely different view of January 6th than what came out in Congress. They had all this video of nooses and people were going to be hung. And I'm like, I never saw that. That wasn't in my live feed. So I saw that there was something just flipping the script. People have called it gaslighting. What do you call it? This is nonsense. And I'm like, I know what I saw. I saw a bunch of, I'm not going to go down that path anymore. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be peaceful. And I'm going to tell them what they swore an oath to. And I'm going to hold them accountable. You know what? We have the Supreme Court. They're complaining about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to destroy democracy. Have you heard that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Many times.
You know
Many
what?
times.
The Supreme Court's going back to following the Constitution, and nowhere in the Constitution does it say that we're a democracy. In fact, the United States Constitution actually guarantees us a Republican form of government.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know the difference between a democracy and a republic?
Well, basically, it's just not mob rule, and I mean, the democracy is kind of mob rule. It's whatever the majority wants, and so that republic is more like a constitution, a set of rules to put some restrictions on that.
Well, that's true. Mob rule is not a good thing. We know that. But when you hear them say, "Oh, this is a democratic republic," that's just a total oxymoron. That's a lie too. This is not a democratic republic. So I just want to tell you in the Kentucky State Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, it says absolute and arbitrary power over the lives, liberty, and property of free men exists nowhere in a republic, not even in the largest majority.
James, so maybe you could put that up on the screen real quick. I have that showing right now, the visual. So this is what she's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So
we are a republic, and when I realized that it only takes one person to stand up, 99% can vote against me, but they have no power over me. And absolute and arbitrary power over the lives, liberty, and property of free men exist nowhere in a republic, not even in the largest majority. When I actually read those words, it was like I just got emboldened with truth. It was like the definition of a democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what's for dinner.
And yet so many people really like that strategy. I don't know why. I guess they're always imagining they're going to be the wolves and not the lamb.
Right?
And in a republic, the lamb is armed.
Well, in a republic, the lamb is armed.
Yes.
And
yes.
we're getting armed with the truth. The truth is, so I'm going to use God as my definition of a higher power. I also like the word good, orderly direction. So the power came from God. It says so in our Constitution. It's written there. We got our freedom from God. It's also part of the law, common law, that you can only delegate what you already have. You can't delegate a power that you didn't have. We the people delegated the power to government to take care of our rights that we had that were given to us by God. Okay. Did God give us the immunity to kill someone and have immunity from that? Can we delegate that to the government?
Well, we certainly do. Whether we should or not.
They took it.
Yes.
If you go back to a recent Supreme Court hearing, they just removed the sovereign immunity from all the federal agencies. All of them. Now we, the people, can go to court and sue all of the federal agencies for not upholding our rights. The Supreme Court has turned the corner. They are standing with we the people. And we're sending our notices and our affidavits in to the U.S. We're sending them to all the 50 state governors. We're putting them on notice, and we're telling this bad dog, we read the Constitution.
You should sit Christy Nome on that bad dog. I'm not sure how she's. I don't know, but I did want to say we are getting kind of close to the end of the show, and I'm going to have to slap the whole slap topic to the curb, and we'll have to get that another week.
No, I just wanted to answer your question. Please, I would teach anyone. I will share my knowledge. I'm doing this for free. I'm doing it from my heart, from my sacred honor. Our founding fathers pledged their lives and their wealth and their sacred honor to establish this great nation. I love this country. I love the people. The people that have been gathering around me are the most beautiful people I've met in my life. And you three gentlemen are now part of that group. So thank you, Leon. Thank you, Tim. And thank you, Jason, for including me. This is a beautiful country. And just remember, it's our bad dog.
Well, and we'll get to some final notes about how people can once again get back in touch with your thing. But as we're getting right near the end, we still want to hit our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. so our Knucklehead Noise Patrol is where we focus on something just crazy that we've heard recently in politics, and you can give us a good laugh on the way out. And this really comes down to the fact of maybe why it gives us a little insight of why so many people maybe are so comfortable giving so much power to government. Is maybe they think the government is sort of a parental figure. Well, I think we really saw evidence of that this about a week ago. I think on May 1st, actually. And James, maybe you could bring up the visual on this. Drew Barrymore was interviewing Kamala Harris, and it was the most bizarre thing I've ever heard a television host say to a politician. And it's so crazy, I don't even want to try to say it. Let's get the video on this. James, it's KNP1. Maybe you can play this.
I keep thinking in my head that we all need a mom. I've been thinking that we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now. Yeah. But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country. And as a woman who respects so much and wants to share and wants to be confident and has no ounce of me that has competitiveness, when we lift each other up, we all rise.
That's exactly right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
However, we need a great protector.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, they literally want to vote people in to be their mom and dad.
But Drew Barrymore is possessed by the devil. I saw it. So there's that.
Now you have to remember, okay, this fool kneeled down before a man who was pretending to be a woman and called him or her or whatever the hell she or he was so brave. And now this fool goes to the most incompetent politician in our time and tell her, you know what? We need you to be Mamala of the country. Who the hell need the most incompetent politician to be my mom? I already have a mom. God rest her soul. I don't need Kamala Harris. But this little fool think we do. God help us here.
Debbie, you have any thoughts on Mamala?
Well, I'm sorry, Leon. You got me with the kneeling down in front of. I can't get that picture out of my mind. She was the attorney general for the state, right?
Yeah.
What was the mayor of San Francisco? She was having an affair with a married man, and It's
Willie Brown,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Willie. So,
part of a ladder to success in the Democrat
yes,
Party. I guess.
yes,
I'm waiting. I'm
he
waiting for Donald
definitely
Trump. I'm
he
sorry. Go ahead.
knows how to hug, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those were. I'm sorry. That's where my mind went. But
I'm just wondering where the Constitution gives the president the power to be our mom.
Oh,
Well, you know, Tim, that was the thing that struck me. I wasn't sure which I was more appalled by: somebody who wants to elect somebody to be their mom, or a politician who will sit there and look at that and agree with them if they want to be elected to be their mom.
well, you know, without being too partisan, Jason, we are looking at two Democrats. Okay, left-wing Democrats at that. Okay, so I don't think it was uncommon or unnatural for them to suggest that we need a mom. We need Mamala. We need the most incompetent politician on the planet to be Mamala. Okay? I don't think it's unnatural.
Yeah.
oh,
Well,
no, that's a whole nother show on parental rights. And does God give the parents
Yes.
rights to be parents, or does the government give, or is the government our parent? I mean, this is just, it's getting interesting.
Yeah. Well, Debbie, I wanted to let you have one more opportunity before the end of the show to let people know if somebody is sitting here in Sacramento and they're saying, "Boy, this sounds interesting. How do I get involved?" Again, what would you suggest to them would be their first step if they want to somehow get involved in the activism, or just to sit around and talk with you guys about this stuff? What would you advise them?
Well, I've got really good teachers that I've been studying with for the past 3 years. One of them is restoremyrepublic.com, and but that won't lead them to me. But I will be happy to share everything that I've learned. They can contact us from our website, saccdg.org. That's saccdg.org. That's our discussion group. Kaylin is picking up those signups, and then my email is info@saccdg.org, and I'll be happy to respond to them, and we can really start talking about what's truth, and the truth will set you free. And we have to prove all things. Just because they say it out loud doesn't mean it's written down anywhere. We need to prove that it was actually written down.
And if you're watching and you want to know a little bit more about what the class looks like, you can check out the show we did 2 weeks ago with Kaylin, and there's a little video clip we took of the actual class. So you can go check that out and just drop in on them. I guess they're a friendly bunch. I've been there once myself, so and I plan on going back. And also too, I just wanted to re-announce the potluck. They're doing a potluck at the end of the month. So if you don't make it tomorrow, and about 2 weeks after that, they're going to have a potluck. So it'd be a great opportunity to come and hang out with some people. And in September, they're going to have their Constitution Day celebration. That's going to be in Folsom, and that's at the park near the zoo and the library out there. So, and they're going to have. It'll
probably be at noon until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. We'll have bounce houses, and we'll have a lot of family events. We'll have speakers and live music. It'll be a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm. And right before the election too, so good timing. Sorry, Tim. It looks like Tim. Were you? Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, I can't think of anything else. So, thanks so much again for joining us, Debbie. And until the next time, I guess for our guests who are watching, again, think about before our next show. You've just seen somebody who's doing local activism, and they can tell you more about how they're doing it. And we've interviewed people who are actually, running for office, and some people have been elected to positions. So, there's lots of examples out there. So we just encourage you to sort of get up off the couch if you're sitting in this world with the emperor's, the emperor's new clothes, and you're saying, "Am I crazy, or is it everybody else?" The only way we're addressing this is if you get up and you take a stand for liberty, because I tell you, we need all hands in the fight right now. So thanks. So thanks again so much for joining us, and until the next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Stay free.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.